Welcome to another episode of Sum and Product of Roots. But this time, we're going to go beyond quadratic. We're going to look at cubic, quartic, and, well, any polynomial for that matter. We're just going to be interested in the sum and products only. So in the formula booklet, you are given that the sum is going to be the second term divided by the first term, but it's always going to be negative of that. Whereas the product is the constant term divided by the first coefficient term. And we have a sort of alternating -1 over there. Basically, if it's a even power in the first term, it's going to be positive for this number here, and it's going to be negative of whatever the ratio is if it's an odd power. So here, so the numbers that are highlighted in yellow will represent the a sub n minus 1. And then you'll notice that for C, I didn't highlight everything. Whereas in blue will be a naught. And again, you will see that I didn't highlight anything in B. Well, I mean, I could highlight here. And maybe for C, I could highlight in between here. I'm just really highlighting nothing. So therefore, the sum is going to be, it's always negative, okay? So negative of -3 over 1, because x to the power 4 has a coefficient of 1. So then product will just be -1 raised to the power 4. But because I know it's even, this will be positive 1. And then times 4 over 1. That's just 4. For B, we have the sum to be negative of -6 over 2. Again, that's 3. For the product, it should be obvious enough that that's 0. I don't care if it's positive or negative, it's 0. Okay? 0 is 0. It's neither positive or negative. Okay? Because this doesn't have an x to the power 16th term, that means that sum is 0 automatically. And for the product, we will have this 17, right? So I know that's odd. So this is going to be a -1 times -46 over 23. So we have a positive 46 over 23, which is 2. And for D, the sum is going to be -4 over 3. Oh, sorry, negative -4 over 3. So let's do negative -4 over 3, which is 4/3. And the product would be, okay, this is even number, so I know that's going to be a positive there, times the -8 over 3. So that's just -8 over 3. Question 2. So can we find out what the sums and, well, I mean the expressions. So the first one is just the sum. So just like in the last question, we take this term here to the second descending term divided by the coefficient of the greatest term. 1/2. Okay, this is just x1, x2, x3. So that means we take, now this one is to be careful. Actually, I should go back up and see, yeah. This one you have to be careful because you got to move this to here so that they equal to 0. So the equation should look like that. So therefore this will be, so it will be positive for that -1 term. And we have the last term divided by the first. So then this will be -17 over 4. C, If I factor out a 10, it's just 10 times the sum. So this number is from part A. 10 times the answer in part A. In D, oops, this should be x1, x3. So I'm going to write everything on top of x1, x2, x3. So I'm just putting in the term that is missing for each of the fractions. And then if I combine them, wow, that's a horrible line. We can factor out 3, and I'm just going to rewrite the order of the x's. It really doesn't matter. So now this is part A. The bottom is part B, which is negative 17 over 4. So we have a bit of manipulation. This is just 3 over 2 times negative 4 over 17, which is negative 6 over 17. And the last question, okay, this one is just with a different function. So let's go right into it. The sum would just be the cubic over the quartic for product will be the constant term, but it's negative 1 to the power 4, so this will be positive. It's the constant term divided by the quartic. Just want to check really quick if I did a positive here. Yeah, I made a mistake here. This should be a cube. So let's fix that. And then that should be a positive then. So therefore, down here, this should be a positive. This should be a positive. And answer should be a positive. There. So back down here, we have negative 1/2 to be the product. So I'm going to be lazy and just factor out this right from the start, which is 3 times part 1, so negative 1. And then D is, okay, I'm now going to skip some step as well. I'm just going to multiply all the fraction with the missing x, and then add them all together. So it's very similar to the last question. And I'm going to put them all on top of x1, x2, x3, x4. So the top is basically just 6 times of the sum. And the bottom, of course, is just the product. So the sum is negative 1 over 3, and product is negative 1/2. So we have negative 3 times negative 2, which is 6. No, this should be negative 2 times negative 2, which is 4. And there you go.